Most people live inside invisible walls their entire lives. They follow rules, they never question, they pay prices, they never negotiate. They believe limits that aren't real. But the people we call geniuses, the ones who bend industries, invent new futures, and break what everyone says is unbreakable, all share one habit. They think from first principles. They strip away everything that's assumed, guessed, or copied, and they rebuild their understanding from the ground up. If you learn to do this, you'll think in a way that makes the impossible possible. The idea of first principles thinking is ancient. The Greek philosopher Aristotle talked about it over 2,000 years ago. He said that to truly understand anything, you must start with its fundamental truths, the facts that can't be broken down any further. In science, this is how we got the laws of physics. In philosophy, this is how we built logic. In technology, this is how we move from horse-drawn carriages to reusable rockets. The people who change the world rarely copy what has already been done. They rebuild it from scratch. One of the best modern examples is Elon Musk. When people told him that building rockets was impossibly expensive, he didn't just accept that. He asked, "What is a rocket made of?" He realized the raw materials cost far less than the final price tag. So instead of buying rockets at inflated costs, he figured out how to build them in-house from first principles. That's how SpaceX was born, and today it launches rockets for a fraction of what it used to cost NASA. But Elon didn't invent first principles. Think of Thomas Edison. When Edison wanted to invent a practical light bulb, people laughed. Others had tried and failed because they copied what already existed. Candles, gas lamps, filaments that burned too quickly. Edison broke the problem down. He asked, what is light? What is heat? What is the simplest way to produce a steady light source that won't burn out immediately? By testing thousands of materials, from bamboo to platinum, he found a filament that worked. He wasn't smarter because he copied. He was smarter because he stripped away assumptions. So how does this help you? Maybe you're not building rockets or light bulbs, but you do have problems. Maybe you want to build a business, change careers, learn faster, or solve something that feels stuck. First principles can help with any of these, because when you think this way, you stop playing by someone else's rules. Let's break it down with an example you can use today. Suppose you want to earn more money. Most people think, I need a raise, or I need a better paying job, or I need to work longer hours. But these are just the standard answers people copy. A first principles thinker asks, what is money, really? It's a store of value that people give you in exchange for solving a problem. So the real question is, what valuable problem can I solve? Who needs it solved? And how can I do it better or cheaper than others? Maybe the answer isn't a raise. Maybe it's starting a side hustle that solves a pain point you understand better than anyone. Maybe it's creating a product once that sells over and over while you sleep. By breaking it down, you unlock better answers. First principles thinking can even transform your health. Say you want to get fit. You search online and you find 100 diets, 1,000 workouts, and millions of opinions. But instead of copying what influencers say, ask, what is fat loss really? At its core, it's a simple energy equation. Calories in versus calories out. Your body burns energy, you eat energy, and the balance decides whether you gain or lose weight. Everything else, fancy meal plans, secret supplements, restrictive rules, are just tactics layered on top. Once you understand the fundamental truth, you stop falling for fads. You can design what works for you based on real physics, not marketing hype. Let's make it even more practical. Here's a quick exercise you can do right now. Pick one area of your life where you feel stuck. Maybe it's money, maybe it's relationships, maybe it's a big goal you keep postponing. Write down the goal, then list out every reason you believe you can't do it. Now attack each reason with a simple question. Is this really true? Or is it just an assumption? For each point, drill down. For example, I don't have time. Is that true? Or is your time spent on distractions? Could you wake up earlier, automate tasks, delegate, break the excuse apart? The deeper you dig, the more assumptions you break, the clearer the real path becomes. Let's look at another genius, Richard Feynman, the Nobel Prize-winning physicist. Feynman was famous for taking apart complex problems and explaining them simply. He used first principles to do it. He once said, I would rather have questions that can't be answered than answers that can't be questioned. That's first principles in one sentence. When Feynman taught physics, he didn't just teach equations. He taught students to break problems down to the basics, to test assumptions, to ask why, over and over until they hit something unarguable. That's why he was able to explain quantum mechanics to people who had never taken a physics class. One of the most powerful tools Feynman used was the Feynman technique. It's simple. When you learn something new, try to explain it to a child. If you can't, you don't understand it well enough yet. That's first principles thinking applied to learning, stripping away jargon until only the raw, clear idea remains. This mental habit isn't just for scientists. Think about Jeff Bezos and Amazon. When Bezos started Amazon, people told him selling books online was risky. But Bezos didn't focus on the surface problem. He focused on the fundamental advantage of the internet: unlimited shelf space, low overhead, and global reach. By starting with the core principles of online retail, he built something traditional bookstores could never match. Later, when Amazon expanded into cloud computing with AWS, people thought it was crazy. But Bezos saw that the underlying principle of the internet economy was scalable infrastructure. By building that from the ground up, he didn't just make a bookstore. He built a tech empire. So how can you develop this habit? One way is to question assumptions daily. When you hear something, don't just nod. Ask, is that really true? How do I know? What is this made of? If someone tells you, you can't do that, ask, why not? Break the idea down to its core. If there's a real barrier, you'll see it. But often, the barrier is made of assumptions and fear. Another way is to practice thinking like a scientist. Scientists test ideas, they don't trust guesses. If you're stuck, run small experiments. Test your idea in a tiny way. Learn from reality. For example, if you want to start a business, don't spend years planning. Test with one product, one offer, one customer. The truth you learn from the real world is your first principle. Here's a final challenge for you today. Take one problem that feels big. Write it down. Break it apart until you reach facts that can't be argued with. Then rebuild your solution from those facts up. Do this once a week, and you'll start to see how most problems aren't fixed by copying what others do. They're fixed by rebuilding from scratch. Most people never question the box they're put in. Geniuses tear the box apart and ask, what is this really made of? They know that once you understand the raw pieces of reality, you can put them together in ways no one else has imagined yet. If you got value from this, there's more waiting for you here. Subscribe to Only Geniuses for deep dives into mental models, hidden thinking patterns, and timeless ideas that the smartest people in the world actually use. Leave a comment below. What problem will you break down to first principles today? And remember, think deeper, think better, and stay endlessly curious. Because once you start thinking like a genius, you'll never see the world the same way again.